You're listening to the DCAU Review, hosted by Cal and Liam. Streaming on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and at DCAUreview.com. Now, here's today's episode.
Welcome, everyone, to episode 98 of the DCAU Review. I am your host, Cal, and with me, our other host, my good brother, Liam. Welcome back to the DCAU Review.
Yeah, we're excited to be here. We have just 2 episodes left, counting this one, in our Elseworlds Superman month, and we're looking at another fun one, another interesting one. Certainly nothing that we've ever covered has been quite like this one, and that is the debut episode of the Legion of Superheroes cartoon.
Yeah, this one is another one of those that I was not very familiar with, was not, I guess, I don't know, like, I for whatever reason, it just was not on my radar of being readily available to watch. I don't know, I was, like, in my 16 to 18-year-old range at that point. I guess maybe I felt like I was too old to watch cartoons, which is goofy because now I'm much older than that and I frequently watch cartoons. So, but yeah, so I was not as familiar with this. But yeah, it's an interesting trip down memory lane for you, and certainly a introduction of a new animated universe, or Elseworld, if you will, as we here are talking about the Legion of Superheroes cartoon, which is it officially called Superman and the Legion of Superheroes, or is it just Legion of Superheroes and the S is present? So
Yes.
Yeah, it was branded as Legion of Superheroes, but they really wanted you to know that Superman was a part of the program.
Yeah, so that's actually part of kind of the development history of this. There's a few different kind of internet rumors that were out there when the show was first announced. One was that it was going to be a spin-off of the Justice League Unlimited episode where Supergirl goes into the stays with the Legion at the end of that episode. Spoiler alert. But that was, according to James Tucker, that was never going to be the case. This was always going to be its own thing, completely separate from the DCAU. Basically, 2006, there was a little film called Superman Returns that was coming out.
Yep.
And Warner Brothers wanted a Superman-centric cartoon, and James Tucker pitched a Legion of Superheroes show with Superman, and they liked it. It was originally developed for Cartoon Network, who ended up passing on it ultimately, and then it found a home with Kids WB, who was also kind of looking for a Superman-centric cartoon, both with the movie coming out and also Smallville still being in full swing at this point. Another show that focuses on a young Superman was right up their alley. So yeah, it ended up debuting on September 23rd, 2006. The episode we were talking about is called Man of Tomorrow. But yeah, it's interesting because I do remember when this show first was announced and it was coming on. This is either right around the time or just after Justice League Unlimited had ended. Mm-hmm. And it's obviously, and we'll get into this as we go into our main categories, but it's very thematically, very visually different than any of the main DCAU shows that we love and that we've talked about for the last 97 episodes. So,
sure.
Wasn't really sure what to see. I didn't get to see every episode of this. I would kind of catch it if I was home on a Saturday morning when it was airing. But I didn't have like a great deal of like nostalgia for this show, but I always remember thinking it's a cool concept, and it's cool to just see a different take, because obviously when a character has been around since 1938, there's been a lot of different Superman animation, as we have shown our listeners this month, as we've gone over movies and various TV shows and the Super Friends shows, and of course the DCAU itself. So getting to go take another crack at Superman in animation, but doing it in this form with a supporting cast of the Legion of Superheroes, I think it's a clever idea, and it's certainly a big swing, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like you said, it's definitely different, and I think its animation style, which we'll talk about once we get into it, rings a little bit more true to a Teen Titans or the Batman cartoon. But we'll get into that as we get into the actual categories as we're ranking them here. But as you mentioned, James Tucker is involved with this. Of course, we reviewed one of his other projects last week, which is, of course, Batman the Brave and the Bold, which you can check out in the archives at DCAUreview.com. If you didn't listen to last week's episode, loads of fun, so please check that out. But this concept of Superman with a Legion was not this is not unique to this.
True.
That was there was a comic book series that was based on this idea as well.
Yes, Superboy and the Legion of Superheroes.
Which essentially this is what this
yes.
is. They just don't call it that.
Yes, and whether or not that's because they just wanted the Superman branding to be stronger and they didn't want to have brand confusion on who Superboy was.
Right.
Or if this is also kind of during that time where the Superboy name itself was kind of, there's a legal battle between DC Comics and the families of Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster over royalties related to that character. The Superboy Connor Kent character was killed off in the comics, allegedly possibly related to that legal battle at the time. So, yeah, they call him Superman, but he is very much Superboy in this show.
For sure. All right, Liam. Well, let's kick off our categories here before we do. I know you have the IMDb synopsis ready to go, so please give us the synopsis for this episode of Legion of Superheroes.
Absolutely. This might be the longest IMDb synopsis ever.
Wow.
So when you think I'm done, I'm not done yet, just so you know. But yes, this is the synopsis for the episode Man of Tomorrow, which was written by Amy Wolfram, directed by Ben Jones, and that synopsis reads as such. When fearsome villains, the Fatal Five, set their sights on the newly formed Legion of Superheroes, 3 of the Legion's members go back in time to get help from the greatest hero of all time, Superman. Instead, they find Clark Kent, aware of his powers, but not of his grand destiny.
Okay, now you are done.
Yes,
okay,
now
cool.
I'm done.
All right, cool. Yeah, you are right. I thought that was the end. I was ready, and I was like, oh, no, he almost got me. All right. Hey, that's the name of a Batman the Animated Series episode.
There you go.
All right, so now you did mention, of course, in that synopsis here, as we'll get into the plot here, that we have 3 of the Legion go back in time, which is actually a very similar story that we encountered back on one of our episodes of Superman the Animated Series, which you can hear. The
New Kids in Town.
New Kids in Town. That's right. That was a fun episode that we covered in the middle of last year at some point. So check out that one in the archives also at DCAUreview.com. But this episode here, it's 3 different ones. Well, one of them is still the same. It's still Saturn Girl.
Yes.
We have Bouncing Boy and Brainiac 5 that go back in time, and they are in search of Clark for reasons unknown at the beginning, but then later on to reveal that they are asking for his help to help battle the Fatal Five, who, again, are not strangers. If you've listened to this podcast, we, of course, covered the direct-to-video Justice League versus the Fatal Five, which came out also last year. So.
Yes, sir.
So some of the concepts here are certainly not strange to us. What did you think of the overall plot of this? So you have the Legion that goes back in time. They bring Clark. Clark is very much just discovering his powers. Oh, actually, it seems like he's had his powers, and it sounds like his mom is aware of them.
Yes.
No sign of Pa Kent. They didn't say he was dead, but it's safe to say this could be one of those iterations where Pa is gone.
Post season 5 of Smallville. Yes.
Right, Jonathan is not with us anymore. But Clark clearly has most of his powers, but is not started to taking to fighting crime. He does use his powers early in the episode to save a Ferris wheel from tipping over at the Kansas State Fair, or the Smallville Fair, one or the other. So it's very much an episode about Clark being told by Lightning Lad, who's one of the Legion, that basically they picked him up and he's not going to do them any help, and he has to prove himself and everybody else wrong because he also has doubt in his powers, and ultimately does a great job and inspires the Legion ultimately, which is hilarious because, I mean, it's a good parallel. That's the Legion themselves are inspired by adult Superman. Right. So young Superman does his job, inspires the Legion to fight back and defeat the Fatal Five in this episode.
Yeah, they sort of establish it's a very symbiotic thing where the Legion would never have come into formation if it weren't for Superman and all his great heroic feats. But yet here, this young Superman needed the Legion to kind of give him the little shove he needed to fully embrace who he was and kind of what his destiny is. And when they first talk to him and they tell him, you're going to be the greatest hero that's ever lived, and he laughs at them. He doesn't believe them. He he can't imagine Clark Kent of Smallville, Kansas becoming the greatest hero the world's ever known. And so I will say I think this episode it's pretty good as far as the plot goes. I think they have to pack a lot into 22 minutes.
They do. It was overstuffed.
Right. And I don't know that this needed to be a two-parter, but that certainly would have allowed you to flesh things out a little bit, because we really don't get a lot of time with the Legionnaires themselves.
Correct.
And obviously I understand Superman's supposed to be the central focus of the show, but you're introduced very quickly to this team of teenage superheroes in the future. You see 3 of them go back. They meet Clark. They say, hey, we need your help to fight the Fatal Five. And then we go back into the future. You get some name drops of some of the other Legionnaires, some of which I believe did appear on the show later on. But you don't really get a lot of sense of, beyond that they're a team of superheroes that was kind of inspired by Superman and they're from the future. You don't really get a lot of sense of who these people are, other than sort of archetypes. Like Saturn Girl's really nice. Yep. And Brainiac 5 is a bit more analytical, and Bouncing Boy's funny, and Lightning Lad's kind of a hothead and a jerk. So you get kind of character archetypes, but you don't get to spend a lot of time with them. And I do wonder if maybe this would have been better if you had a little more time to flesh it out.
It also, and I would be interested to delve more into it, we already talked about it, the show itself almost has a bit of an identity crisis, because that's the name of a DC comic series, has a bit of an identity crisis in that...
There's an episode of Superman, too.
There you go. Is this a Superman show with the Legionnaires as his supporting cast, or is this a Legion of Superheroes series with Superman as the supporting cast? Like, if I had to guess by watching this episode, Superman is the main focus of this episode. Ultimately, the Legion of Superheroes are the ones that save the day. They're the ones that ultimately defeat the Fatal Five. But they would not have done it without Superman, and Superman's name is not on the show, as we already said.
Right.
The show is the Legion of Superheroes. So, yeah, I wonder if it's just because they're trying to kind of get the best of both worlds and fleshing out some of these characters and introducing some of these guys to... the Legion of Superheroes are not household names.
Right.
Superman is. So, is this the type of thing where... they feel it's necessary to have the main focus on Superman and then sprinkle in the Legion of Superheroes like this episode did in order to justify the series? Are they getting did they get directives from that? It's hard to say, but I think you're right. I think that it's very, very Superman heavy, which is obviously why we're doing this episode in a Superman Elseworlds month. But if they were going if the show is called Legion of Superheroes, which it is, then you're right. I think they could have lent a little bit more to fleshing out some of those Legion of Superheroes characters. Yeah,
and I know they do later in the series. Brainiac 5 gets a lot of play. They kind of go into his history and his ancestry, and some of the other, and a lot of different characters get an episode or two to focus on. But this being the pilot episode, this is your introduction to everything, and it just, like I said, it just feels overstuffed, I think is a good word.
I appreciate that they didn't feel the need to do a Superman origin story.
No.
They didn't need to tell us who Superman was. You go in with the assumption that you pretty much know who Superman is, you know what his powers are, and it doesn't need to be explained who Clark Kent is, or Ma Kent, or why Smallville is where he lives, or any of that stuff.
Right.
Which I did appreciate. Now, the plot itself, I think this also could have been the case. It felt a little bit overstuffed because there's 5 villains. If you think about that, that's you could have taken one of the Fatal Five, maybe, and done an allusion to the other 4 and brought them in later or throughout the season to have them. And again, this is my first exposure, so I don't know how the season goes and if there's a main thread or storyline. But you could have done a main thread or storyline where each character is slowly introduced and then have them all, reunite in the finale and have them battle then. But this is sort of the core villains that I'm aware of that battle the Legion. Obviously, there's two DCAU episodes, or three,
right?
And two of the three DCAU episodes around the Legion have the Fatal Five,
right,
in them. So, well, 2 episodes in a movie. But so if you're gonna have these guys be the villains, then you could have spread it out a little bit too, so it maybe didn't feel so jam packed at the end.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. But yeah, overall, I still enjoyed it. I think they still do a good job with what they do. We'll get up to a lot more of this stuff in visuals, but driving home that feeling of Clark learning who he will become, and his dealing with that from his sort of bargaining of, no, this can't be who I am. It's got to be some mistake to kind of, by the end of the episode, not that he doesn't instantly become super confident Superman. As the very end of the episode shows, he's still kind of learning to fly and learning how to pose while he flies and things like that. That, the classic Superman stuff. But I think it does ring true to the Superman character, where even when he isn't quite so confident in his own abilities, he's still got to go out and try, because, well, these other heroes around him are going to try, and he's got to at least give it his best shot, even if he's not confident he's going to win it. So, yeah. For all that being said, like I said, it's certainly not perfect. It's a little overstuffed, but I gave Plot a 6 out of 10.
I'm right there with you. I'm a 7 out of 10.
All right.
I think I went in with 0 expectations for this, which helped. And I was pleasantly surprised. I didn't hate it, and I think there were things I would have tweaked, but for a pilot episode, I thought it was pretty good. All right, let's move on to visuals and animation, Liam. As you mentioned at the start of the episode, visuals and animation are certainly very different than what we would be used to as far as DCAU movies or shows. So this is a little bit out of that sort of streamlined and more towards, I would say, anime or the Teen Titans-esque, leaning towards that Japanese influence. Giant big feet, skinny legs and torsos, and then sort of bigger heads and hands. So exaggerated features for sure. As far as character designs are concerned, now I think that the characters look reminiscent enough of their. I mean, you know who each of the characters are if you're at all familiar with the Legion, and certainly Clark looked like a Clark Kent type.
Yes.
He had glasses on. They got that done with the curl in the middle of his forehead. So I think to me the most interesting visuals were the villains. Certainly the Fatal Five are always fascinating, and we talked about that in the Justice League versus Fatal Five episode that we did, which you can hear in the archives at DCAUreview.com.
There you go.
But those villains themselves are certainly unique and visually interesting. But there's also a pretty cool part of the episode where, as Clark is sort of being taunted and told by Lightning Lad that he isn't going to be good enough to join the team, and he's put him through this test of lifting up this heavy metal. Clark runs away and stumbles upon an interesting visual item in the middle of New Metropolis.
Yeah, he in fact finds a Superman museum. There's a giant golden Superman statue outside, and then as he goes in, there's photos of him. His suit is on display, and all of the kind of the photos that are hanging up in the rafters of the museum are all kind of recreations of various classic Superman comic book covers, which is a really nice touch.
Yeah, that was a huge pop. I was like, oh, there's a Neil Adams cover there. I'm sure there were several others there from Silver and Golden Age Superman as well. But that was a neat touch, and it's funny because parallels. There was a cool scene in the Justice League versus Fatal Five where there was also a museum scene that was sort of led to that. Oh, they snuck some Easter eggs in there and some neat bits in there. So I thought visually that was really really interesting, and coupled. We'll talk in a minute about the music, but coupled with the music, it was just a really powerful, neat scene for you. Anything visually stand out for you?
Yeah, I as far as the designs go, I don't have a ton to add past what you said, but yeah, I appreciate how different they made this, because as we mentioned, it's not a DCAU show. So I appreciated the completely drastic difference. I think you may have mentioned this earlier in the episode, but if it is close to anything, it's probably that Teen Titans show, which did such a good job of marrying Western and Eastern animation types. This one isn't quite as anime as Teen Titans.
Sure.
Certainly, you don't have like the wild reactions and like the Tex Avery type stuff,
Right.
But it's still, you definitely see that influence in the character designs. As far as like, I love the backgrounds. I love the look of New Metropolis. It's really cool looking. It looks like a cool futuristic city without going so far into making it look like the Jetsons or something.
Agreed.
Like it has a very unique feel to it, and it feels like what a city might look like in 1,000 years.
Right.
And I loved, as you mentioned, the Superman Museum is super cool. Some of the designs and some of the aliens we see walking around in the background, some of the different species that are like DC Comics lore, like there's one of the same species as the Tomar Ray Green Lantern, the kind of bird-like aliens. We get a cameo from Booster Gold and Skeets.
There you go.
Booster working as a janitor in the Superman Museum. They added a lot, and I love the way a lot of the Legion's powers were visualized. Every time Lightning Lad kind of powers up, he has this scar around his eye, and the scar begins to glow every time he's about to use his powers. I thought that was really cool. I really liked Triplicate Girl, the way they used her powers and how she can kind of split and then come back together and split kind of at will. There's a great scene near the end as she's fighting the Persuader, where she runs at him, jumps up, and kind of throws a flying kick. But then as she's the first one's doing the kick, a second one flies out, and then the third one flies out, and that's actually the one that connects. And then they all zoom back and come back together. So the visualizations of Triplicate Girl, of Lightning Lad, and Bouncing Boy as well, I thought they did some really, really cool stuff with all of them.
Yeah, they had a lot of fun. Triplicate Girl was one of the things that I liked too. I neglected to mention, when they visualize her powers and splitting, and she does the triple kick at the end was awesome. There was also a cameo by one of the what I would call, and I had to Google this because I didn't know his name, the Diamond Green Lantern, who apparently his name is Chaselon, I guess. He's from the world of Barrio 3, just so you know.
There you go.
So throw that in your Google machine if you're interested in getting a visual on that guy.
Certainly.
Certainly. Yeah, but that it was cool. It was nice. I kind of wish they had done a few more cameos from different things. That's we've talked about that before. When you're on an alien planet or futuristic planet, you can kind of go wild and enjoy it. But the ones that were there were good. I think you're right. I think the visualization of their powers is where they had the most fun in this episode.
Yeah, definitely. I really enjoyed that. I really loved, specifically of the Fatal Five you mentioned, their designs were all pretty striking, but specifically the Persuader design, because most of the versions of him is just like he's kind of got like a black suit with the big silver head on it, and this one he's like a big jacked up guy with like a long like ponytail and has like this skull mask on his face. I thought Persuader especially had a really, really unique and cool design to him.
Yeah, I didn't care for Emerald Empress too much, and I thought she got a lot of screen time.
Yeah.
I felt like that her design was just, she had neon green glowing mascara and hair, but she looked a little more like Fire to me.
That's
from
fair.
Fire and Ice, but that's nitpicking. I still think it's a very strong episode visually. I enjoyed it for the most part. I don't love the character designs. It's not really my style of animation that I prefer, but I did enjoy things in the midst of it, so I gave it a pretty strong 7 out of 10 for it. What about you?
Yeah, I gave it 9 out of 10. So
nice.
I really, really enjoyed it, and I think it's, like I said, I think the home runs are definitely the visualizations of the powers near the end as Superman's being blasted with the energy from the Empress's big eyeball.
Yep.
And he fires heat vision back at it, and
that was cool.
Sort of the whole screen turns red for a moment as the Legion kind of rallies. Brainiac 5 turns into this giant like transformer looking thing, and they do some really, really, really cool stuff with that stuff especially.
There you go. All right, Liam, let's move on to music here. Let's talk about music. Yeah, any idea on who did music for this week's episode?
Yes, it's the same three people we mentioned last week, in fact. Christopher Carter, Lolita Ritmanis, and Michael McQuistion.
Those guys have a job for life with the DC cartoons. That's awesome.
Yeah, they're veterans, obviously. They've all worked on, I think, going back to Superman and Batman Beyond, Justice League. I think Lolita Ritmanis actually even did a few episodes of the original Batman the Animated Series, too.
I believe so, too.
So yeah, they know how to score a superhero cartoon by this point in the game, certainly. And I like the Superman theme is kind of reminiscent of the Shirley Walker theme, but
Agreed.
It isn't quite the same. It's played in a different key, and it doesn't come to quite the same crescendo, but it's still very triumphant when he finally puts that suit on and comes to fight the Fatal Five. It's still a cool moment. You still know that's a Superman theme right there.
Absolutely. Yeah, that part gave me a little chills. It was cool. He puts the suit on, and you can tell he's still just kind of like, I don't know about this. And then the suit sort of like, I guess, adjusts to his body or whatever it is. They talk about that. Is that suit alive?
Yeah, I don't know.
All right,
maybe it's a literal symbiote.
Yeah, who knows?
From the Spider-Man.
Anyway, if sort of form fits his body all of a sudden, and the theme kicks in, and like you said, it's reminiscent enough of the Superman the Animated Series theme where it gives a good callback. And I thought that the music during the final battle too between the Fatal Five and Superman was good. It wasn't overpowering. There wasn't anything other than sort of mood setting music, but it created that sort of tension that you look for in those moments. And like you said, these guys clearly know how to do that.
Yes. Yeah, and I like the main theme of the show too. They have a full like title sequence where they do like a roll call of all the different characters, and it's not entirely unique animation. There are some clips from other episodes mixed in with it, but I love the way it ends with kind of each Legionnaire, flying down and landing, and then the other one lands in front of them all the way, and then ending with Superman. And that combined with the music kind of swelling at that point, I thought did a good job. And I gave music a 7 out of 10. I really liked it in this episode.
I have the exact same score, 7 out of 10. It's very strong, and we try not to do this, but when you're comparing across the board, and this is what we do, we rate episodes on things. We talked about last week's episode and the Brave and the Bold episode, where we felt like that could have given that episode just a little extra oomph, was having a Superman theme, something that maybe even if it wasn't an exact theme that had been used before, but a variation on a classic Superman theme of any kind. And this episode, this show did that in a way. Yes. It was reminiscent of the Superman the Animated Series, but was different in its own right, but still packed that punch and gave the need or let you feel Superman's presence there. It added to the show.
Agreed.
All right, Liam, let's move on to our final category of the day, voice acting. So we have a full cast here of different characters, a lot of different people. As we said, it was a jam-packed episode. So let's talk about our voice cast here.
Yeah, it's a big cast, and I will start with we have Carrie Walgren as Saturn Girl. She also plays Triplicate Girl, who people might know from. She's done a lot of voice acting work. Shows like Rick and Morty. She actually played Starfire in the DC animated movie universe, the more recent straight to DVD or Blu-ray movies that have come out. She's played Starfire in a couple of those. I like her as Saturn Girl. Again, she's kind of just there to be nice to Clark and kind of give him a little bit of a pep talk, but I think she fits like what you want Saturn Girl to sound like. I think like very very like it sounds like she thinks she's thought about what she's going to say before she says it.
Agreed.
And I think she does a good job with that. We have Adam Wiley as Brainiac 5, who is probably best known. There was apparently, this is news to me, but when I was doing research, there's a show called Picket Fences that ran for like 5 years that he was on. So that's what I got for Adam Wiley.
All right.
As Brainiac 5. He doesn't have a lot in this episode other than kind of being the guy who is like, no, Superman's going to be great. Like, Superman's going to... like he's like we're in the right place. We're gonna find
Right.
him. He's kind of just there to be a little bit of exposition, and a
Sure.
little bit of training for Superman. We have Michael Cornacchia as Bouncing Boy. He's good. Another veteran voice actor. He's just kind of his default look is just kind of a big jolly fat guy.
Yep.
So that's the kind of voice you get from him.
Sure.
He's solid in it. You have Heather Hogan as Phantom Girl, and we have Andy Milder as Lightning Lad. He's probably best known for being in He was in Apollo 13 and Armageddon.
Oh.
So I guess he cornered the market on space movies of the mid '90s.
Okay, there we go.
But he again, like we talked about in plot, there are a lot of these Legionnaires are just kind of playing archetypes of a character at this point. So he's kind of a jock. He's kind of a cocky guy. He's sort of, I guess, the de facto leader at this point in the team.
Yep.
And he's kind of giving Superman the business before things
Giving him the business.
get a little more serious towards the end. But yeah, he does a fine job. And we have Jennifer Hale as the Emerald Empress. She's really the only member of the Fatal Five who talks in this episode. So
They had so many people, they didn't want to go the extra mile and have the rest, or have people do double duty as most cartoons would.
Right. So yeah, Jennifer Hale, who we would know as Killer Frost and Giganta from the DCAU series.
There you go.
As well as 1,000 other voice roles, of course. And then, the man himself, Yuri Lowenthal, is playing Superman, who folks might know from the Ben 10 Alien Force show. This was when they aged up Ben to be like a teenager.
Okay.
He did the voice of that. He's also voiced Spider-Man a lot, including in the most recent PS4 Spider-Man video game.
Oh, okay.
Tons and another one of those just really solid, easy. I believe he also voiced Robin in something, but I don't have that in front of me. He's done a lot of different voice acting for superhero cartoons over the years, but very recognizable to me as someone who both loved that Spider-Man game and also as someone who watched a lot of Ben 10 growing up. So, he does a solid job as a I guess he's not quite teenage because he's about to start his job at the Daily Planet, but still a younger Superman. And yeah, I think he does a good job. I don't think anybody's like great in this episode, but nobody's bad either. So I went ahead and gave voice acting a 6 out of 10.
All right. I am just a tick higher. I went 7 out of 10. I think, again, had to do with my no expectations coming into this, no preconceived notions. I think everybody plays their roles pretty well. These are all teenagers, and casting people that are 30 years old to play teenagers as it goes they usually do a pretty good job because they're all actors. So I felt like that the acting wasn't bad. There is a lot. I was hoping for at least one or two more DCAU veteran voice actors in this episode, but maybe they come in later down the line because we know this is, as you said, a James Tucker production, so probably use some of those other guys later. But nice to have at least one or two in there from the DCAU. But 7 out of 10. All right, Liam. So I guess that will bring us to our final scores for the day. So tallying everything up on my end here, I have a final score of 28 out of 40. What about you?
And I also have a final score of 28 out
Which
of
is
40.
insane because I had 7s across the board, and you had, yes, the math checks out. You had 2 6s, a 7, and a 9. Both come to 28. And as a reminder, we don't talk about our scores. But let's talk about rewatchability, Liam. That's going to be a tough one for me here because, I guess I am. What speaks to this is I am certainly interested in seeing more episodes of this in the future, I guess. So that's a good thing. And I guess if you're going to go down this route and check out this cartoon at all, you would probably want to check out the pilot episode.
Yeah.
I give it a 1 thumb up to rewatch. Will I ever watch this episode again? Probably not. But hard to get through? No. Is it fun? Yeah, there's some fun to be had, and there's some cool visuals.
Yeah, it's not. I think it's not like a great. We talked so much about the various Batman Brave and the Bold episodes, about how a lot of them work as like a great like DC Comics 101 Certainly, like the Shazam episode we watched they just go over the entire origin story and everything in there. And like we said, because this is so focused on Superman, we don't get a lot of time to learn who the Legion are. So yeah, I would kind of be in the same ballpark. I think it is worth watching if you've never seen the show and you're interested in giving it a try. It's a fine place to start with the first episode, but if you're looking for like, I want to explain to me who these Legionnaires are, or a specific character, like I want to know about Brainiac 5, then you'd probably want to look into some episodes probably later on in the series that get to focus more on the individual characters rather than trying to introduce Superman himself and an entire team at the same time. So,
or watch Justice League Unlimited,
or you can watch Justice League Unlimited, or Superman animated series, anything like that. But still. I'm like we're saying, we was certainly an enjoyable time, but maybe it's not like a great intro to the Legion if that's what you're looking for.
Concur. All right, Liam. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for listening to this week's episode. We have one more week of Superman Elseworlds episodes coming up. Liam, you want to talk about what our final episode? Hard to believe we've already made it through 5 weeks of Elseworlds here coming up. But what is our final episode of Superman Elseworlds month?
Yes, so our final week of Superman Elseworlds month will, in fact, be returning to a show we have covered once before, and that being The Batman. We reviewed the pilot episode of that show back a little bit over a year ago now, and you can find that episode in the archives at DCAUreview.com. But we're jumping all the way into the season 5 premiere, the final season of The Batman here, with the 2-part season premiere, The Batman Superman Story. Parts 1 and 2, the introduction of Superman into this world of The Batman. We get to see him interact with Batman, with Robin, with some of the other ancillary characters that have been introduced in the 4 seasons that have passed since we last visited these characters. So definitely looking forward to that. There will be some familiar names to talk about in voice acting for that episode, but definitely looking to wrapping it up with another interesting take on the Man of Steel.
Absolutely, and just right around the corner, 2 weeks from now, we have episode number 100 coming up. So have something exciting planned for that. So stay tuned as we count down to episode 100. But as Liam said, thank you for tuning in this week. Don't forget to check us out on social media at DCAU Review, both on Twitter and Instagram. Both things offering their own uniqueness. Liam interacting with anybody and everybody, all things DC and DCAU related on Twitter. And then you can check out our Instagram for clips from upcoming episodes, Flashback Fridays from past episodes, and tons more fun on there as well. Excited to wrap up this month, Liam.
Yeah, it's as we've talked about, it's been a lot of fun looking at all these different versions, and excited, looking forward towards episode 100 on the horizon. So looking forward to getting to the next one.
All right. Well, until then, I'm Cal,
and I'm Liam,
and we'll talk to you on the next episode of the DCAU Review.
Bye bye.